Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. Today we're going to be trying something a little bit different, a little bit new, in that we are going to be discussing briefly some trending topics in the world of anime news. Kyoto Animation is celebrating the 10th anniversary of their series Tamako Market. Makoto Shinkai's latest film is killing it in the Japanese box office, and earlier this week, Anime Expo has announced their lineup of badges this year, with a notable exception. I'm Tristan Gallant, and welcome to Glass Reflection. Let's jam. So, according to Kyoto Animation's official Twitter, a new anime project for Tamako Market has been announced. This is specifically to celebrate the series' 10-year anniversary, which is this month. So it's not that the new series is actually going to be coming out at the 10-month marker, because that would be, now. But the company still seems to want to celebrate this series, and as such, have launched a new anime project. Now, they have not actually said whether this is going to be a TV project or a film. The original Tamako Market TV series released in January of 2013, and a film sequel, Tamako Love Story, came out in 2014. What's also unknown about this project is whether or not any of the creative team is going to be involved. Tamako Market's original scriptwriter and character designers have not been attached to many things Kyoto Ani in the last number of years, and director Yamada reportedly left Kyoto Animation in 2021 to direct for things over at Science Saru, and they are currently working on a new feature film over there. So while it is technically possible that she could be involved, nothing yet has been confirmed. Now, not an insignificant amount of people have been worried about Kyoto Animation ever since the arson attack several years ago that, while it is hard to talk about, it did injure many and kill several. And I don't think many people would have blamed Kyoto Animation for actually getting out of the game entirely and closing up shop after that. But thankfully, between that and dealing with the pandemic alongside everyone else, they do seem to be recovering at a reasonable rate with the release of Dragon Maid Season 2, and currently they are airing Tsurune's second season. But hopefully, as we get more information about the new Tamako Market project alongside anything else that Kyoto Animation has to be doing, we can see a good amount of recovery from the studio as time moves on. Makoto Shinkai's latest film, Suzume, has just reached number 10 in the top 10 highest-grossing anime films of all time in Japan, beating out Hayao Miyazaki's The Wind Rises. Currently, the film is in its 9th weekend over in Japan, and it is still going, so it is quite possible that the film could climb even higher in the charts. Now, it does face, of course, stiff competition, including 4 other Ghibli films, Shinkai's own last 2 films, Weathering With You and Your Name, as well as the shonen juggernauts of Jujutsu Kaisen 0, One Piece Red, and current holder of the #1 spot, Demon Slayer Mugen Train. Now, Suzume has yet to be released over here in the West, and it's not scheduled to release here until April 14th. But if you happen to have any reservations about whether or not this latest film would live up to Shinkai's previous works, then this might alleviate some of those worries. I'll personally be surprised if it ends up surpassing Your Name in the box office, or even Princess Mononoke, but we honestly won't know until it happens, and all this really does is just help build up the hype for when the film is eventually released here, and we personally can watch it. There's only so much I can handle from trailers until I can actually get my hands on the film itself. I've been waiting a while now. Lastly, for news, Anime Expo has officially announced both the day that badges for this year's event will be going on sale, and also what they cost. Anime Expo, or AX, is of course the largest anime convention in North America, and as such has had to deal with a massive slew of people attending their convention in downtown Los Angeles every July. While most anime conventions, when poorly managed, are somewhat lovingly renamed LineCon for how much time attendees have to wait around for actual exciting things to happen, AX has been extra notable for plenty of changes over the last number of years that have impacted not just people's abilities to go to panels and events, but also just getting into the con itself, with many times over the years leaving people to just wait hours upon hours even just to enter the convention, let alone attend panels or any other events. Historically, one of the ways to bypass this at AX was the purchase of a Premier Badge. Now, the Premier Badge gave you priority entry into the convention center, early access to the exhibit hall, your own designated hotel booking block, and of course, advanced reservation to select events. It did, however, cost you, last being priced at just under $550 USD. But for those who could pony up the cash, the Premier Badge was a lifesaver as far as trying to actually enjoy going to this convention. This coming year, however, the Premier Badge is no longer being offered. AX is offering individual badges for all days of the con, as well as a 4-day pass for the entire convention at a maximum cost of $145 USD. At least when registration opens on the 24th, cost of badges does tend to go up the closer to the convention we actually get. But there has been no official explanation as to why the Premier Badge is no longer being offered, leaving only speculation in its wake. Some claim that this is a boon for the convention as a whole, as it puts all attendees on equal footing, where previously some events, depending on the max capacity of the venue, would see regular attendees getting cut off because a lot of Premier Badge holders decided to attend and limited the actual capacity for everyone else. While on the other side, people are lamenting the loss of the Premier Badge, as that option gave people who could not physically wait for multiple hours in the scorching California heat just to enter the convention or attend events. And now those people feel like they won't be able to attend AX at all because it's just not worth it to them anymore. Personally, I haven't gone to Anime Expo for a good number of years, mostly because it has just become too large. While I can definitely see the benefit of a Premier Badge, I have never partaken in that particular perk personally, and have just lined up with the rest of the degenerate rabble that normally goes. And yes, those lines absolutely can suck. The year that I went, we stood outside for 3 hours in the scorching heat just to be let into the convention itself, which is by far the longest I have ever waited to get into a con ever. Some years at Anime Boston, I've had pretty long lines, and the next closest was probably at North, but that wasn't even for the convention center. That was just for the expo hall, and they were late opening, and a lot of other things coincided with that. But the massive amount of attendees and the lines and all of the, generally speaking, waiting has put me off from wanting to go to AX ever again. For me to go to Anime Expo, the flight alone into LAX or even any of the surrounding airports would cost more than I could spend going to almost any other convention on the East Coast. And I don't just mean for the badges or for transit, I mean for all of it. I have gone to East Coast conventions with transit, with hotel, with badges, with even purchases all included, and all of that costed less than it would take me to actually physically get to the LA Convention Center, let alone pay for the badge there, and set myself up for a hotel in Los Angeles for 4 nights. So generally speaking, it has not been worth it for me. I don't know when it'll be worth it again, if ever, and for a lot of people, this lack of a Premier Badge makes it even harder to justify going. Now, before we briefly go over the winter anime season, I did want to give shoutouts to supporters of this channel over on Patreon. This video is not sponsored, and the more support that we get over there, the less sponsors that Glass Reflection will actually need at any given time. So an immense thank you, especially to patrons like Wago221, City Yamako, Ryfen Bonaparte, Ross Emerson, Omar Showman, and Hector Montemayor. We can't continue this without your support, so however much you are able to, I'm eternally grateful. Now, winter 2021. I am going to be brief here because I'm deciding to be a crazy person this season and, no lie, actually watch everything. Normally, I don't watch everything. Normally, I filter out a whole bunch of stuff based on personal preferences and the staff and the studio and even the PVs in some cases. I try to limit myself and save myself a lot of time. Not so this season. And so a video on literally everything will be coming out in the next coming weeks. But briefly, I just wanted to bring up a couple of choice mentions that I think are going to be less talked about in general by a lot of people, just to get those out there and potentially get a couple of more eyes on them before the full video is completed, as that might take me, you know, a little bit of time. There's a lot of anime coming out. So the first episode of Farming Life in Another World hit an interesting chord with me. Ignoring the first couple of minutes that are medias res and take place further down in the story, while this does seem to be a fairly typical isekai, showing a guy getting reincarnated into a fantasy world and being given a cheat item that allows him to basically be the greatest farmer who ever lived, and it's like he has a multi-tool in Minecraft, essentially. No joke, a lot of this first episode does feel like it's an anime version of Minecraft. Just, you know, a budget version, because we're not actually going to call it that, nor does everything look like blocks. But at least in the first episode, there is a heavy emphasis on the farming in general and the things that this guy now has to deal with to survive in this new world, bereft of any semblance of civilization. Yes, he does seem to be given a body that doesn't need as much sleep or sustenance as a normal person, and his cheat item allows him to do great feats of essentially magic. But as a chill isekai series, it is going on my list just for being just that little bit extra unique that I am finding fascinating. The magical revolution of the reincarnated princess and the genius young lady, despite being a very long title, is being touted as an isekai, and honestly, I wish it wasn't. While technically our main character is a reincarnated person, she more so has some scattered memories of a former life, not necessarily the traditional isekai protagonist that remembers everything and is legitimately like that person just now in a new body. Having scattered memories or visions of a former life, I feel like is quite a bit different, and I honestly just wish that this was labeled as a proper fantasy rather than an isekai. We don't get many legit fantasies anymore, and this might as well be one. It's like trying to force itself into the isekai genre without really belonging there, and I wish it didn't feel the need to have to do that. The princess of this new series has actually been extremely interesting to watch in just the first episode alone. She has walked away from the throne that has been offered to her, leaving her brother to take it up instead. She has decided to go and become an adventurer because that is far more fun, and she has desperately wanted to fly, which apparently has not been a thing granted to many people in this world. But by gone she figured it out somehow. And by the end of the first episode, we actually see an interesting take on the kind of tanked reputation trope that some isekais have been using as of late, where all of the characters in this world are seemingly all against one particular character for really dumb reasons, and sometimes reasons that don't even exist because they're being lied about by someone who doesn't like them for one reason or another, and that is the genius young lady mentioned in the title. But our princess decides to literally pick her up and take her with her anyway, to hopefully solve any problems that she may have with her life, and it'll be interesting to see what the series actually wants to do with its plot, because the plot hasn't really done anything yet. We've just been setting up these characters, and I feel like that has been interesting enough to keep watching, but we'll have to see how that goes as we continue. And the reason why I wanted to talk about those ones briefly, even though I haven't watched everything yet, I'm slowly getting through it, is because a lot of times people, myself included, are going to be spending a not unreasonable amount of time on the very popular shows for this season. We're going to be talking about Trigun. We're going to be talking about Vinland Saga. I'm going to be talking about Bofuri, even though not a lot of other people are. And so just to give a brief mention on some potential gems I thought was worth the time. And hopefully you did too. So look out for the upcoming video on the new season when I get the time to actually finish watching everything and get my thoughts down on camera. And until then, that's it for our show today. I'm gonna be trying to do these types of videos on a bit more of a regular basis moving forward. I wanna be covering topics as they come up and hopefully just providing a lot more content on the channel in general as we start this brand new year. So subscribe if you haven't, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and until next time, whether that is later this week or the start of next, watch more anime and stay frosty.